Hi everyone, I hope you are doing well. So today I am recording a message which I think is probably one of my most important ones. At least this is one that I wish I had gotten my hands on this information much earlier on in the journey, then it wouldn't have been as painful as it was. And it actually has to do with what to actually eat during a Kundalini awakening. Now, some of you are going to resonate with this more than others, depending on, your individual awakening process, your energetic blockages, what that really takes for it to be cleared. We've talked many times on this channel through various videos about how some people can get through their ancestral healing much quicker than others. Well, let me tell you, that was not the case for me. And had I made the necessary dietary changes sooner, knowing what was required, it could have been a much, much easier journey. So my hope really with this particular video and message is that it reaches as many people as, really need this information for your awakening journey. Now, I really want to start off by talking about what's kind of taking place. Now, when Kundalini is rising through your chakras, of course, she is clearing out any blockages that you may have, the patterns that you have, the energetic patterns, any sickness, ancestral sickness that needs to be cleared through your system. And what this ends up actually doing is you're going through metamorphosis, right? Essentially, it's a huge transformation. That's why you see changes on every level. Energetically, you're getting upgrades, right? Because you're trying to really hold on to more light as you go through this process. You are healing that's required for your actual nervous system, the upgrades that basically an ascension journey brings. And so what's really happening, and a lot of this is actually best explained through Ayurveda, which is medical science from the East, obviously based on natural practices, which is something that I had to turn to really get through this journey, because it literally got to a point on my awakening journey where I couldn't breathe properly. I couldn't digest anything properly. It actually even ended up having an impact on the fact that I couldn't even really walk from one room to another room because of the amount of sickness that I was going through. And so what was really taking place, and again, like I said, some of you will feel this more than others, but if you are in that extreme thick of sickness, understand that this, message in terms of the dietary changes I'm going to recommend will really help you. So what's really taking place and why you may get this sick is because there is an imbalance in your body that is taking place in your energy levels. Your emotional stability is kind of being rocked. Your nervous system is trying to regulate itself. The upgrades that you're going through, your body is trying to integrate all of that. And so what ends up happening is the energy in your body is really being utilized towards this transformation. And so where you end up creating a lack is in your digestion, in, your regular biological processes that you had and were normal to you before. So what can really happen if you are going through this is you need to go onto a diet that is much, much lighter as compared to what you were consuming prior to your awakening. The one thing I want to make clear to anybody that might be going through this is keep your mental state in check. It does not help you if you are struggling through sickness on your journey that you start to create a mindset that you're never going to get better, even though it may feel like that in the moment. I have personally had to, through this, transformation, I've landed up in ER, the hospital, twice because you get to a point where you're like, I don't know what more to do for myself. And unfortunately, as intense as the symptoms may seem, like sometimes my chest would make sounds as if I had pneumonia. And of course, if you go to the doctor, they start to look at the wheezing and the sounds that you're making, and they're looking at it from a medical perspective. They are not ready to kind of, share with you or understand the Kundalini awakening process that you're going through. And the reason why I really stress this is that you do not want to get worried. I mean, when doctors heard my chest, they sent me for x-rays, MRIs, the whole gamut. But in going through the process, intuitively, I knew exactly what was happening. I just didn't know what to do to treat it. And that's why I was at the doctor's, because that chest could not get any louder in the, situation that I was in. With that being said, I think this is such an important message because one thing you want to kind of make sure is when doctors look at you in this particular manner, whether they understand the symptoms right away or not, what they're going to do is they're going to give you a whole bunch of suppressants, which is what happened in my case. You may end up with all sorts of medication, and majority of the medication that we deal with in modern medicine today, it's there to treat your symptoms. It's not getting to the root cause. So what you have is, unfortunately, a conflicting process here. You've got Kundalini that's trying to clear all of your blockages, and then you've got modern medicine throwing at you suppressants, which is just going to, create more blockages, right? Because it's not really treating the problem. It's just temporarily curing the symptoms that you're having. So, while I do highly, highly, highly recommend that if you are struggling, you need to go to the doctor, you want to make sure you get ruled out. Anything that may be, coming to the surface as needing medical treatment, do not be worried if doctors can't get to the bottom of what you're experiencing. Be cautious with the treatment that they're recommending, and really try to see if you can help yourself through alternative medicine. And I say that because that is literally how I got through what I got through. So just to let you know, intuitively, for example, I understood that I had to really focus on breath work. Unfortunately, breath work for me, because I was having respiratory issues, wasn't working as nicely as it works for majority of people. Most of individuals that are going through a Kundalini awakening through meditation and through breath work, you should be able to really conquer whatever it is you're experiencing. But if you're anything like me, then you have the challenges with, properly implementing breath work, then you can look to, additional dietary and other alternate medicine to really get you through. So there are lots of remedies out there to help you. And that's what you should really focus on. Now, in terms of the diet you want to really look into, just understand first off what you could tolerate prior to an awakening may change moderately or drastically for you through this awakening process. So, just that alone, don't get scared by the changes that your body may be asking you to make. So what you really want to focus on is eating a much, much lighter diet that is easier for digestion specifically. Now, I do actually want to throw in one other tip for you if you are struggling. And this also, I received this intuitively through my journey as well. And it was a game changer for me, is actually visiting a sauna. That actually had a huge and positive impact on my breathing when I was struggling with, breathlessness going through my transformation journey. So that's why I say, the meditation is going to be key, because you will get the support that you need really through your meditation, creating that awareness on the inside, and you will get the necessary tips and tricks that you need to help support yourself through your journey. Now, just moving over to what you want to actually eat during a Kundalini awakening to help yourself, is that you really want to focus on a clean, natural, a nutrient dense, and a light and easy diet that you can easily digest. I'm going to name specific foods for you to really let you know, but essentially you want to really move away from the processed stuff, the fried foods, Unfortunately, dairy, all of you that must, love cheeses and, your milk, you got to get away from that. So you want to look at what is really going to calm your nervous system as you're moving through this awakening journey. Also, grounding is going to be critical for you. Breath work is still your number one. If it works for you, it's going to work wonders. It didn't in my case because of my respiratory issues, but hopefully that is not the case for everybody. So just, pay attention to that. And, just reduce the strain on your digestive system. Before you eat anything, just really look at what you're eating. Understand that your body's going through this massive transformation, restructure of your DNA, you're breaking down fascia. So old, eating patterns are going to have to go as well. So really, really pay attention. By the way, nobody should be worried about, oh my God, am I never going to be able to have dairy products or, whatever you used to love, fried food, etc. It's just you want to lighten the load on your digestive system, on your nervous system as you go through the transformation. Things do come back into balance eventually. But for now, you want to allow that energy to work for you in other areas, help your digestive system so you can really get through this awakening process. Now, in terms of what food to really eat, and this is really true for any ascension journey, it doesn't matter what kind of an awakening you're really going through, but when, energy is moving intensely upward, you want to eat grounding foods to help create balance for yourself. Root vegetables, right? Carrots, sweet potatoes, beets, radishes really are, helpful to you on your journey. Healthy fats, soaked almonds, walnuts, seeds, all of those can be really, really good. In terms of grain, you want to move away from gluten and really move towards, softer grains, such as quinoa, brown rice. Oats was actually amazing for me. So easy. Couldn't even tell that I ate anything, but I was full. So that's something to really pay attention to. In terms of other vegetables that are really easy, spinach, kale, squash, zucchini, and other cooked vegetables. You really want to, I would actually say steam them versus actually just sauteing them. You really want to help your body break down this food very easily. So the softer it is going in, the easier, the less work it has to do, easier it's going to be to digest these foods. Now, in terms of fruits, you can really look this up, but some of the ones that I really clung to and were amazing for me were any form of berries, mangoes, guava was amazing. I couldn't even feel that I had something, versus maybe a banana that didn't do so well for me. So apples, papaya, mangoes, guava, berries, all of these were absolutely phenomenal. So just really pay attention to your diet during your awakening journey, and that's really going to help you. Now, I have shared this in multiple videos, but I'll say it here again. I had to, years before my awakening journey, I started to feel like I needed to get away from caffeine. I truly believe as you're going through your ascension, as you're trying to embody more light, your body starts to reject caffeine. So if you start to see that you can no longer tolerate coffees and even teas, and for me, by the way, I couldn't even have, like if I went to a Starbucks and got one of their green teas, after 2 sips, I would feel like I was so dehydrated. So I had to move away from all store-bought teas and coffee, and I had to start making my own herbal teas, right? So you're looking at maybe rosemary at home, cumin, looking at ginger, like taking those fresh herbs and trying to boil it, bring it to a boil and having natural teas. So really take a look at that. If you do love your milk, you might have to leave the dairy altogether until you are really clear of whatever it is you're going through. Personally, I feel like you are gravitating more towards a plant-based diet during an awakening. But I leave that to you individually to see what suits you, what works for you. Everybody is going to have different sensitivities during your awakening, so really pay attention to that. Definitely lots and lots of fluid in terms of water intake should be at an all-time high, because that's going to help you move away from it's going to help your digestive system, but also it'll help you move away from any dehydration that you're feeling. And then also for dairy, if you really want to still have a tea and you're able to tolerate the caffeine and you still want to have that, instead of the dairy, maybe bring in the oat milk or the almond milk or other alternatives. Now, I think I did forget alcohol. That's definitely alcohol, smoking, and usually excessive caffeine. All of that seems to kind of fall away during an awakening journey, just because of the fact that they're stimulants and toxins. And if you are still taking these in and your body's trying to go through a purification process, there may be a bit of a conflict there for you. So really, really listen to your body during this process. I can't stress enough how golden this information became for me. Once I knew and I was able to implement it, oh my God, it was a game changer for my transformation journey. So if you are feeling the excessive sickness, really, really make the dietary changes, and I am sure it will help you and go a long way. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope this was helpful. God bless.